Welcome back to another episode of Conflict in Cuisine with your hosts, Seth Frantzman. I'm the senior Middle East correspondent of the Jerusalem-Post, and Erica Schachne.
Hi, I'm the magazine and in Jerusalem editor. Great to see you, Seth.
Great to see you again.
I'm glad we're both, awake and alive after our debauch, our 3-day Jerusalem Purim.
Right, not everyone survives the 3-day Purim.
I think a lot of people are still laying on the street.
Are still hungover, right?
I'm definitely hungover.
Purim celebrates, if I recall, the creation of the world and the segmentation between darkness and light. Is that what it celebrates?
I didn't hear that part.
No.
It was a triumph over our enemy Haman.
Haman was kind of potentate or deputy director of operations in Persia or something.
Yeah, Parasu Madai and all of its different provinces, and he was related to Agag, the original Amalek.
So he was kind of like a deep state figure, trying to undermine the Jewish people at a time when they lived as a minority under the Persian regime.
And I picture him looking like Rasputin, like just really insidious and...
Right. So
villain.
not like 6 feet tall and, blue-eyed or something.
No, not handsome and dashing, kind of like middling and searing.
Yes. And during Purim, people, not only do they imbibe, but they also eat something, these hamantachen.
Hamantaschen.
Is that how it's pronounced? Because I never understood how it's pronounced. Hamantaschen comes from 2 words, Haman or Haman.
Right.
And tachen, which means tuchus or bottom. No?
Seth, I don't think tachen comes from tuchus. I know Yiddish, and I think I was told that it's from German and it means pocket. And then we have this we have a triangular pastry.
Because Haman wore he wore a triangular hat, much like pirates. That's where the pirates got the hat.
Is that where they got it? Did they eat Hamantaschen too?
Well, the Jewish pirates of the Caribbean did.
This is great. But yes, Hamantaschen. They have a bad reputation, I think, for not being as tasty as sufganiyot, but I love them.
And Israel waited until after Purim to begin new airstrikes on Gaza.
Right.
Because the modern day Haman who could argue is Hamas.
Yeah, I think.
And the name rhymes.
Yeah, and there's very little argument there. So they were on Ramadan, and they had 2 weeks off.
Well, it's been a month of Ramadan.
Right. But they got
the first 2 weeks.
The first 2 weeks they got of Ramadan, they just had their regular fast, and then the iftar break fast, and they thought there was a ceasefire in effect. And
I think that's considered what they call FAFO, which we can't
absolutely
say that, but it's F around, and then they find out.
Right.
And so Hamas is now finding out, once again, after 17 months of war.
How can it be 17 months? But we were in it seemed like a stalemate about the hostages, and we wanted a nice amount of living hostages. They wanted to give us 1 living and a few bodies, and we just had enough. Isn't that correct? Yeah.
Well, there was a phase 1 of the deal. It began in mid-January. Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, sealed the deal. It was a good deal. It was a wonderful deal. It was an amazing deal.
Not everyone loved it.
Not everyone. But
no one won, but we had
33 hostages out, 42 days of ceasefire, much like the 40 days that Noah spent on the ark.
Right.
And then
40 plus 2, yeah.
Yes. And then you got to March 1st. Hamas refused to extend the deal. They said we want
phase 2 is out.
They wanted phase 2, which is an end of the war. Israel said no.
Right. Because that would just be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you can't accept to have these people kill 1,000 of you and then kidnap 250, and then they kind of just be like, oh, whoops, ceasefire.
Yeah, and just still hold some of them and do such terrible crimes
60 hostages, right? 59 hostages are held in Gaza.
Something like that, yeah. So we actually did a lightning strike in the middle of the night, and that was much to their surprise and the world's surprise. And meanwhile, it seems no one came to the rescue. And at the same time, the Houthis were being slammed.
That's right. It's kind of like it's a 1-2 punch in the last week. The U.S. began strikes against the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen.
A few days before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Israel came in with the other knockout right hook to Hamas.
Surprise right hook. Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like Mike Tyson in his early days when he was quite a good fighter as opposed to, later on.
Yeah, when he bit ears and had a face tattoo. Yeah,
Right.
so
Then he was not up to his game. But
that's
let's
neither
say-
here nor there.
So we've been giving these knockout blows, although the enemy has not accepted, defeat yet.
Yeah, they have not, and I don't think they ever will. Even if they are defeated, they'll still say they won in any case, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So it seems, we're really knocking them out, and the Houthis sent one missile to America in retaliation.
They attacked an They claimed to attack the USS
Right.
Harry Truman,
Ah.
which is an aircraft carrier,
Yes.
and they with like a bunch of ballistic missiles and drones and
Right.
I don't know, slingshots or something.
Right.
And then they attacked Israel with one missile, targeting somewhere near Beersheba that it was intercepted and like pieces of it fell out of the sky.
Right, there was a siren there, I believe. But some people think that this is a distraction, even though it is important that we fight Gaza to the teeth, if that's the right expression. But distraction from Netanyahu's attempted firing of Ronan Bar, the Shin Bet chief. Do you think it is? Could it be both?
Ronan Bar is, what you could call the last of the Mohicans because he's one of the few Israeli officials that is still in charge after October 7th, who was in charge on October 7th
Right.
because the Israel military intelligence leader, Aaron Haliva, resigned.
Right.
The head of the Gaza division resigned.
Right.
The head of Southern Command resigned.
Right.
The Herzl Levy, the chief of staff, resigned
And
recently.
we have a new chief of staff.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fired Yoav Gallant, who was
Right.
in November, I think.
Right. Defense minister.
Right. So with the exception of Ronan Bar, you've got the Mossad head and a few other officials like the Air Force chief and stuff that are still on their station. But
Right. Right.
but he is the last of the Mohicans.
Right. I mean, he's set to resign anyway after all the hostages are brought home. But
Right. That's obviously his mission as a Shin Bet is in
Right.
charge of. It's also called the Israel Security Agency, I think, ISA, right?
Right. Right.
And it is
It's internal security.
It's Israel's version of kind of the FBI, but also a bit more because it does counterterrorism.
Right. Right. Mossad is out of the country and Shin Bet is inside, but sort of outside. So.
Right.
Yeah. So some people think it's a distraction tactic, but these strikes are still happening and is definitely sending a message, right? Would you say?
Right. So I understood from reading a little bit about these strikes that Israel has begun a campaign that will be incremental, in which there will be phases or steps or whatever. And Israel's like on step one, and of what it can do. And so
Right.
that's what I understand is happening in Gaza. These airstrikes, and maybe there will be some ground maneuver.
Right.
And just kind of squeeze Hamas, until it's and chop it up like a cake until there's no more Hamas.
Until it's dry, right? They're limiting their humanitarian aid, so they're choking them
That's
out,
what I've
right?
heard, is that they've cut the aid. They're going after the Hamas political people.
Yes, they assassinated a bunch of them,
And it raises a question. How come these guys were sitting, high on the hog, as it were, in Gaza, these Hamas political people, for 17 months, and Israel didn't take them out yet? Because I always feel when I watch the Israeli media, or read, or watch, whatever,
right,
they'll show you this like flow chart of all these people that were taken out.
right,
And it's like 20 guys, and it's like XXXXXXXX. And you're like, oh, that's cool. Everyone on that, every single person in the chain of command has basically been eliminated. There's usually like one dude that ran away. But somehow, then they'll be like, oh, whoops, there's also this other chain of command you didn't hear about of these political
right. We've been
people.
hiding that from you till a different time in the future. I think it could be a few things. Could they have been hunkering down in Qatar with their beautiful villas and then just somehow snuck back in? Is that possible? Also, the tunnels are extremely comfortable. Remember Sinwar's wife with her Birkin bag? I mean, they're not having a hard time living in these tunnels, so they enjoy it. And maybe they kept the hostages around them, so Israel couldn't attack them.
What on earth is a Birkin bag?
It's this bag that there's a waiting list for, and you have to pay like $22,000 for, and I just don't understand it. It's a mashkanta.
Wait, it's not a combination of the word burqa and bag.
No, bichlalo. Even though the woman was wearing a hijab, in the picture
Right.
as she was leaving the tunnel.
So it's not like a burqa that doubles as a bag.
No, that would be interesting. Maybe
Right?
you should invent it.
Or maybe if the burqa had like big pockets, then you could just put stuff in them.
Women's clothing never has pockets, but you hold it on your arm from what...
Female kangaroos have a pocket, no? Or is that the men?
Wow, you are in fine form today.
How do you know it's Sinwar that stole money and not his wife that had her own private business?
Could be. Maybe she had a side hustle. Maybe she was big on TikTok.
Gig work. They call it gig work.
She could have been like a real star influencer on TikTok.
Right, that would be interesting. Or if she ran like a restaurant or something.
Yeah, what do you think she would specialize in?
Yeah, cutting things up and bad
Ooh,
things.
My blood runs cold.
Right. It would not be.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be.
I don't know if I'd want to eat there. I don't trust their kashrut.
It would be explosive.
Oh, good one. Spicy. Caliente.
So we've got the war in Gaza started again.
The war, yes. And some people are worried, though, that this gradual operation plan, why are they doing things gradually? Can't they do it all at once?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you watch movies about war like George Patton or, great commanders of the past, you think
Right.
of these people that did, real quick knockout blows. Even Israel in 1967.
Right.
And this war seems to be this like slow, long, depressing slog.
Slog is the right word. It just doesn't. We're worried that it's not going anywhere. Like we were just being held in some sort of purgatory. So at least this is something. Yeah, I was watching our dear colleague Yona Bob do an explainer on it. So that's where I got the question about gradual versus all at once.
Right, that's true. That's the messaging from IDF is that the Israeli public should not expect, some wild thing in which all of a sudden Hamas is toppled, that everyone needs to wait more. And I guess for the public, the problem is they've been waiting for 17 months.
Yeah.
There's still 59 hostages. So, the public, I think the public is resilient, but it's a bit difficult to not have answers.
And it's exhausted. The public is exhausted. The reservists have not yet been called up, but some people have served like 4 or 5 different times. And there is a segment of the population that's refusing to serve. So they're short of people, and people are just exhausted. I mean, what else is there to say? So they're not going to have, it seems in the beginning at least, not a big ground invasion. But yeah, Israel seems to be having a two-party battle, right? Itself versus Hamas instead of all these proxies.
Well, that's right. It is a good thing that because of the Trump administration knocking out or dealing with the Houthis a bit, Israel's able to just deal with Hamas, laser focus, and
Right.
not have to deal with the Houthis, the Hajj al-Shabi in Iraq, which is Iranian-backed militias, Hezbollah,
Right.
Hamas. They all start with an H, oddly enough,
Yeah, why is that?
because of Haman.
Oh, very good. That was like when we had all
Yeah.
those B people, BB, bougie. Remember all that?
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's all H's.
So you've uncovered it. But Hezbollah's been busy in Syria, no?
I don't know what Hezbollah's doing. I mean, they've been pushed out of Syria, but they keep causing trouble,
That's what I mean.
attacking and killing members of the new Syrian government.
What is their problem? What's their
Hezbollah.
damage?
Well, it's an evil organization involved in
Yes.
gun running and drug trafficking.
Right. A proxy of Iran can't be too hot. you
Right,
know?
and they want to destabilize the border and kind of keep their claws in Syria, I think.
Right. And they have attacked that site previously, right?
It's this area in northern Lebanon, right across the border. There's a town called Qusair.
Mm-hmm.
That's the area that Hezbollah basically would drive up from the Bekaa Valley, and they would go into Syria in the civil war,
Right.
starting in 2012.
Right, right,
Hezbollah was supporting the Assad regime by sending people to fight.
right.
So they had this like enclave there, which Hezbollah kind of colonized.
Mm-hmm.
So when the new Syrian government came back, these Hezbollah guys had to go back to Lebanon, but they obviously
Right.
didn't want to. So
Right. I guess they didn't want to give up what they had. And meanwhile, in Syria, how is the government doing? Because there were these civilian. I don't know if I use the word genocide, and not enough were killed, but there were attacks by extremists on Alawites.
right, the Alawites a lot of them live in northern part of Syria called Latakia, and
Right.
they're a minority group, but that group, the Assad regime, the Assad family were Alawites, so
They were Alawi.
were
Yeah.
supported by them, or
Right.
that was some of their roots.
Right.
So there's some of these Islamist extremists. They don't like the Alawites, and they have reasons to dislike them from not only religious but also the reasons politics of the fact
Right.
that this is the old regime.
Right. It's simmering resentment
That's right. So what happened was some members of this, they claimed that some members of the Alawite group killed several members of the new Syrian government's security forces. So then the Syrian government unleashed these Turkish-backed militias to basically massacre hundreds of people.
Which is terrifying to see in Syria because we thought the civil war was over, and here's civilians again dying. So yeah, it's been kind of an issue for the new government. They need money, right? Don't we all?
They want sanctions relief and European money, and they're going to get money from Qatar and Turkey. And I guess the big question mark then is where the new Syrian government ends up. Does it end up being moderates or extremists? I mean, a lot of Israel's political leadership has called them jihadists. I mean, I guess the question is that what they are, or will they reform? Or there's a lot of question marks. And then we have to, I guess, have to see or keep our eyes on it.
Is it possible in your eyes for a jihadist to reform?
Yeah, I think that's possible for people that were involved in bad things to moderate or reform or change. I mean, not to say that the Chinese government is acceptable, but the Maoist regime of the 50s, 60s, and 70s was quite bad. There was reform in China, I think, in the 80s and 90s before China went back to Xi Jinping-ism. So, yeah, I think countries can change.
Okay. So do you have any forecast for the new Syrian government?
I don't have any forecast for that government, but I do have a forecast for a segment I think that we call Nobody Cares About Algeria.
Ah, my favorite. So the forecast being murky and cloudy.
Well, nobody cares about it, so there's no forecast.
There's no forecast. Good point. But I did my 2-second Google, and Algeria and France are in a standoff.
Again?
Again, because the same thing as last time, but Algeria is refusing to accept a number of nationals that France wants to expel. Yeah, so that's not great. So France cares about Algeria's actions, but nobody else
basically, since our last Nobody Cares About Algeria episode, nothing has happened that actually has any regional significance.
Not that I know of. No. Have you heard anything from North Africa?
No, there's
or from the Stan area of the world?
There's nothing happening.
Menistans?
No. And there's stuff happening in Sudan. And I understood Israel was floating this idea of sending Gazans to Somalia and Sudan. And so that's kind of North Africa, a bit.
Right.
Why don't they send them to Algeria?
That's a great idea. It's a vast country.
Yeah, maybe someone should bring that up to the government as a place that Gazans could go.
Well, they're very into Palestinian nationalism.
Right.
But somehow I don't think it would just be that easy.
They don't want it.
I wish, it was, but it's not. So,
well, they could send them to Algeria, then they could go to France.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
Right. I did hear that Romania or some countries taking a few people, but I think it's a humanitarian.
Planes went off,
Right.
Went off? They didn't go off. They flew out.
Yes, planes fly.
They
hopefully.
fly. I hope.
You don't want to be on the plane that goes off.
That lands upside down. That was incredible.
That would be considered they call it not optimal.
Non-optimal, suboptimal.
You know that when a plane flies into a mountain, they call it controlled flight into terrain?
Is it controlled?
Yeah, because it's controlled in the sense that the plane is flown not purposely. Let's say the pilot's in control.
Right.
And there's fog. And the plane is flying, and he's like...
His trajectory was just to go straight.
Right. It's not that the plane, falls out of the sky and crashes into a mountain. It's controlled flight into terrain.
But that's really confusing. It's like when South Africans say, I'll get that for you just now, and that means later. So to me, there's nothing controlled about it, because doesn't everyone on board die?
People in the UK say taking the piss, and I've never understood that either. So there's lots of
You take the piss. I don't want it.
I see that. I wonder how it became a phrase.
I wonder how a lot of things became a phrase.
So we'll have to keep tabs on that and Algeria.
Wait, since you brought this up anyway, I find it very fascinating. What do you think happened to the Malaysia flight that disappeared? Let's bring up a conspiracy
theory. It was flown
theory.
towards Antarctica, and then it crashed into the water, and that was it.
And it was on purpose? The pilot did that on purpose as an act?
They say the allegation is the senior pilot. There was a junior and a senior.
Right.
One was being trained kind of. One guy had done it for a long time. He had a flight simulator at home.
And he simulated that exact route and went over his hometown. Right.
He's accused of doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
but I think now that we've done the Algeria segment, just to segue into something that we
Sorry
have to,
about that. I just had to ask. Yeah.
well, look, okay, actually, it's a good thing you brought up a Malaysian conspiracy
Right.
because the JFK files have been released.
My favorite conspiracy of them all. So Trump is talking about his new era of transparency.
Right.
And they've been promising since 1992 to release these documents. So they kind of gradually have been doing it, but redacted. And then a few days ago, Trump is like, that's it, 80,000 coming out. So have you heard of any interesting revelations? Do they expect interesting revelations?
No, I've heard nothing. I mean, I just heard that people thought there'd be some sort of smoking gun there, or there's all these people that are anti-Israel, anti-Semitic who said, like, well, why isn't Israel mentioned or whatever? But have you heard anything?
No, I mean, it seems like a lot of it is just dross about Cuba. Not that that's not interesting. And, KGB, sorry. And, but it does seem they knew about Oswald before he did the assassination, and that 6 or 8 weeks before he went to Mexico City, and the CIA was aware of it. And he visited the Soviet embassy there. His wife was Russian, and they were monitoring him. So saying, like, all those years ago that they didn't know who he was, that's not true. But I think that's been out for a little while. What I heard people want to see, the famous Zapruder film of the assassination. So apparently there's another guy who took a film of the grassy knoll itself. And in it, you even see Zapruder filming, but they took that away because it might show too much. So people want to see that. They want to see Jackie O's letters to Lyndon Johnson because she talks about what she thinks happened. But I don't think we're going to see any of that.
Just to go back, there's a very good film with Kevin Costner in it.
I love that movie, JFK. Oh,
right, and it's
great.
directed by Oliver Stone.
Right.
And he went before he went off the derrick a bit.
In the deep end.
So he it's got Kevin Costner in it.
Dances with Wolves. Yeah. Sorry, I can't separate him from that. Yeah. He plays
He plays a Louisiana prosecutor. But,
yes.
But like, there's a huge good cast in it. Like
amazing cast.
Kevin Bacon.
Yes, he plays a male prostitute, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, something
Sissy
like
Spacek
that.
is his wife, who never sees him when he starts.
Tommy Lee Jones is in it.
Excellent. Yeah, he's not the greatest
Joe
guy.
Pesci.
Right. Excellent.
Jack Lemmon.
Right. Jack Lemmon gets his zets on the head, I remember. Someone hits him for some reason. I'm just remembering random details. But
Right.
it really was a fascinating
Yes.
thing that was uncovered in New Orleans.
Right. So that's a fascinating film, and it tries to piece together this whole strange story. I mean, this Oswald and how he basically defected to Russia, then he came back, and the whole none of it makes sense. And if you get to the end of the film, you don't know what to believe.
Right, and it's hard to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and it seems, and I believe they were referencing the Warren Commission when they did the JFK, and then everyone seems to realize now the Warren Commission was a sham, that there was a lot of stuff that they didn't investigate at the time, but a lot of people say Occam's razor, like maybe it was just Oswald. Do you think that's possible? Who do you think killed JFK?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. Is it the bullet from Oswald's gun? And if it isn't, then obviously there's a conspiracy. Not conspiracy, but there's more than two people, then it's some sort of conspiracy of something. I mean, because remember that whole story of Jack Ruby kills Oswald.
Right.
And then Jack Ruby never talks about, nothing is really clear.
Right, and he was part of the underworld, so they wanted to silence Oswald. He was a nightclub owner, but also, he had connections. Right. So it was clear somebody wanted to shut up Oswald.
Well, that's where you start to ask questions. It seems to be like, well, wait, is it just one guy who got up in the morning and was like, you know what, I think I'll shoot the president?
Feeling grumpy this day in Dallas.
Yeah, and planning all that, and how would he know the route and all this stuff? I mean, there's things that
seems rather intricate.
Because it's not like the killing of Lincoln, which is much simpler. Which is the guy was an actor who was.
It was a simpler time. Yeah.
Well, John Wilkes Booth. Wait, but that was also a conspiracy. John Wilkes Booth was a
Confederate. Was it? That I did not know.
Yeah, John Wilkes Booth was a Confederate sympathizer.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of people around him.
Right.
They didn't like the Union or whatever.
Right.
But I'm saying in terms of the actual shooting itself, there's no lack of clarity there. He goes in the booth.
Right.
Wait, his name was John Wilkes Booth.
Was there a booth, or he was just the booth?
No. John Wilkes Booth's last name is Booth, but he also went into a booth.
He went into, not a ticket booth, an audience booth.
Well, yeah, because Lincoln was in a booth.
A box.
Oh, it was a box.
I can see why you would call it a booth.
So his name was not John Wilkes Box.
Right.
So
Booth
Booth went in,
Booth went in the box.
He shoots Lincoln.
He bombards him. Yeah.
He shoots him. Then he jumps on the stage. And doesn't he say something like Sic Semper Tyrannis? Like, thus to tyrants?
Yeah, something like that. Didn't Timothy McVeigh say it also at some point before his...
Right, so I'm just saying, but the storyline of Booth is more linear.
Yeah. It's much more straightforward, and it seems like there was one cause and one reason that they did it, and maybe a few people around him, but not some vast agency conspiracy with the CIA, with Cuba, you know. And he had pissed off Kennedy. He had pissed off the chiefs of staff. The CIA, he was going to dismantle them. So a lot of people were upset with him.
Wait, that's the Oliver Stone kind of take.
No, but it's true. I think that becomes revealed in the documents.
Listen, hold on.
Okay.
JFK was not going to dismantle the CIA.
Not dismantle it, but maybe take away a little bit of its power. And we know the CIA doesn't like that. It was going a little rogue and stepping on civil liberties.
Right, I guess that's a good question. That's an interesting question. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I will never. Look, what we know now.
Might know.
No, the documents say nothing.
Right. They tell us a lot about Cuba, and they mentioned that some spy that they got, like a KGB defector, he was in their custody, but they took him on a pleasure trip to Florida, where they procured 2 prostitutes for him. So I did learn that, so that was great. And why Florida, I don't know.
Not a bad deal to be a KGB agent, I guess, right? I mean,
guess you just live in fear.
They weren't paid well probably by the Soviet Union, but they were being paid well by their paymasters in America.
Yeah, and I saw in the documents at the time that he was getting a salary of $23,000, and adjusted for inflation, it ain't bad. So
no, not.
It might.
When you're a kid, they don't tell you about that career choice. Why don't you go become a KGB agent, then get paid by the Americans to be a double agent, and be taken to Florida?
Right. Although Soviets who lived as Americans were trained since they were young, which is fascinating. You know, like the series The Americans?
Yeah.
Yeah, they embody Americans because they've been trained since a very young age.
What would you do if your parents called you one day? Like, listen, to be honest, Erica, we're actually Soviet moles, and now you live in Israel, so you've never been operationalized. But, you were supposed to be you're supposed to be a highly trained agent.
Well, I wasn't. You were, but I'd be like, you know what? That doesn't surprise me at all. But I'm like, where has all this Ashkenazi guilt come from then? If you're really from the Soviet Union, it's misplaced. Yeah, I don't know. What would you do? It's too shocking. Those poor people from New Jersey, those kids had to go to Russia with their parents who were uncovered as spies.
That's the real punishment. Then you end up living with Asma al-Assad in some sort of depressing dacha on the Black Sea.
Oh, my God. And then you go to a depressing department store. What do they sell there? Like beets for borscht?
They send you in to be one of these officers for those North Korean cannon fodder that Putin is sending into the Battle of Kursk.
Oh, man.
That would be unfortunate. We're very sorry to inform you.
I don't mean to make fun of borscht because I do like it. Yeah.
We're very sorry to inform you, but you've been called back to the Soviet Union.
You've been selected.
And you'll now be a captain of a bunch of North Korean volunteers who are being sent as cannon fodder to fight in Kursk. Good luck.
Good luck and God bless.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, but they don't believe in God.
No.
So may Comrade Stalin be with you.
That's right. That's what you...
Yeah. That would be really unfortunate. We segued, but I think it's quite fascinating. So we really care about those documents I care about that at least. Trump, as I said before, he is in his era of transparency. And I think he's going to reveal more. He promised to reveal about RFK's assassination. He promised to reveal about Martin Luther King. I think he's going to tell us whether aliens are real or not. And what the hell is going on with all those drones? Come on, Trump, tell us everything. What do you think?
The aliens, yeah, they're gonna bring them out of Area 51 and be like, oh, by the way, we've had these for years.
They crashed in Roswell. They haven't been seen since.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll find out.
Unfortunately, the aliens are just giant triangles that are made of the same thing.
Dough.
Same thing as jellyfish or dough. And
that's right.
On their home planet, if you drop them off because of gravity, they form back into something. But when they came to the United States to try to take it over, the gravity was different, and they suddenly went from being shaped beings to being blobs of triangular dough.
So they're Medusa on the beach?
Well, no, they're like pancakes.
Pancakes. Okay, well, that brings us to
So I think that would bring us then to the food segment of our show.
the hotly anticipated hot cake
Award-winning.
segment. Yeah.
This has won an award.
Where?
I think it's Turkmenistan, which is
Tajikistan?
Turkmenistan, which is a country it's not a country, it's an autonomous region between Turkmenistan and Tajikistan, which actually combines both stands.
Right, and it's not Dagestan, which is another one. And it's not Djibouti, which is something completely different.
Djibouti's in
With a D.
Wait, that's next to Somalia.
Sorry,
or
I'm really
Eritrea.
confused. Yeah. Okay.
Dagestan is actually next to Chechnya in the Caucasus.
Right, and it's kind of extremist. That's where the Boston bombers came from, right?
Well, I thought they were Chechens.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm mixing up a lot of conspiracy things.
Or Mongolians.
Mongolians?
Stalin's spy chief, Lavrenti Beria, was a Mongolian.
That's different from being a Mongolian?
No, it's a Mongolian. There are people that come from, I think, Georgia.
Oh.
It's like a little group of people that live in like a valley, and he was one of them.
Ah, fascinating, yeah.
Anyway, back to pancakes.
Let's go back to pancakes, because we all love them. I've never met a pancake hater. Have you?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there must be people that are like waffle idolaters.
I don't know. Waffles never did it for me in quite the same way. If you see a stack of pancakes, not that I ever saw an actual stack, but even one pancake,
Yeah.
you just start to feel all warm and excited.
What is the
inside.
technical difference between what's called a short stack and a full stack?
I know they have this thing called silver dollar pancakes. That's for little kids. And then you have a little stack
Right.
for, I guess, like half pint, like the little kids. And then you have like these real lumberjack type trucker
Right.
guys who have a full stack.
Well, that comes with like bacon and sausages and,
Right.
and probably a steak on top.
In Waffle House, ironically.
Right.
Yeah, all over the United
Wait,
States.
can you get pancakes in Waffle House?
I think you probably can. Are they called flapjacks there? And it's all part of the Waffle House breakfast?
Hold on a minute. If you're driving down the street in America, obviously not Israel.
In the South. Like, you wouldn't find one in New York City, a Waffle House. You'd find an IHOP, International House of
Y'all want to go to
Pancakes.
Waffle House or IHOP?
Or Danny's. Yeah.
Wait, but hold on. International
Yeah.
House of Pancakes sells pancakes, and Waffle House has waffles. They can't possibly have the same thing at both of them.
I think they both have varied menus, but the main thing on their menu, their star food, is a waffle or a pancake. But I think IHOP has mostly pancakes.
Wait, if the company that owned International House of Pancakes bought out Waffle House, could they call it International House of Waffles?
Well, what about International House of Pancakes and Waffles? Is that too unwieldy?
Or maybe just National House of Waffles?
Nah. Don't you want it to be international?
Yeah, I guess, right?
But if they're expanding too much, then they're going to go out of business?
Well, it's a bit like the World Series, because the World Series is basically mostly American baseball.
Right.
They allow like one or two Canadian teams in.
Go Yanks!
International House of Pancakes is actually just American. It's not really international.
Yeah, but America is the world according to what people say about Americans. But anyway, speaking of pancakes, do you call them flapjacks? Do you call them hotcakes? No, going like
who
hot.
calls them flapjacks?
Maybe settlers on the on the prairie in the 1800s. But anyway, why are they so delicious? What is so delicious? Because they're cake, really.
Wait a sec. Pancakes basically have 5 ingredients. Can you name them all?
Flour, oil, eggs, sugar, Hungry Jack mix.
Wait a second.
Salt?
There's no oil in pancakes.
Oh yeah, there is.
There's butter.
Oh, all right. Well, you can use any sort of fat, and then you fry it in something.
Yeah, but you can't just plop in a bunch of gross seed oil.
You can. You can plop it in. I've done it. I've used Hungry Jack for many a year, and they just said, just add eggs and just add this.
But wait, I didn't ask what's in pancake mix that you just use with water. I mean,
No, it's not just with water.
Hold on a minute. There's baking soda, vanilla.
Oh, wow. You're talking about, you are always on a different level than I am. I am doing it the easiest way possible. You're doing it the most gourmet.
No.
Yeah.
You take two buckets, no, two bowls.
Bowls.
One bowl is the wet, one's the dry. In the wet bowl, you put 1.5 cups or 2 of milk, around 1 or 2 eggs,
Right.
a bit of vanilla. That's basically it. Oh yeah, and then melted butter, a tablespoon or 2 of melted butter.
Okay. Right.
Then in the dry bowl, you put 1 cup or 2 of flour,
Right.
a little bit of baking soda,
Right.
and then a dash of salt and a few tablespoons of sugar.
Right.
And I think that's basically.
What about eggs? Don't you need?
I put eggs in the water.
Oh, you put eggs over in the liquidy one, in the liquidy
right,
bowl.
and then you chop them together and you turn it into a batter.
And that's your batter, and then you pour it onto the griddle or your pan.
Right. You can do them in butter or oil, I guess, whatever you want.
Yeah. And growing up, we would always put bananas like underneath the pancakes. They were so delicious.
That's always a question. See, I'm a pancake purist. I don't put anything in them. I don't want blueberries or bananas or walnuts.
I want chocolate chips. I want it all, and I want it now.
I don't want steak in there.
Ew, no, I don't want that.
Lettuce.
Savory salad-like pancakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vegemite.
Gross. No, but you could be a purist. That's fine. I always felt a little disappointed. There wasn't enough flavor. Like some people like to top their pancakes with fruit or whipped cream. I think if you're a purist, you're going to hate that. Syrup, right?
So I would make maple syrup, real maple syrup,
Real.
probably from Maine or Canada.
Or Vermont. Are you okay with Vermont?
Yeah, it's near Maine.
Near
to be
Maine.
honest. But these days, Vermont is just a bunch of those city folk, right? I mean,
Liberals.
It's a bunch of
Ben and
It's a bunch
Jerry's.
of Bernie Sanders types,
Okay.
isn't it?
And ice cream, yeah. But so you wouldn't have Aunt Jemima syrup.
I wouldn't put anchovies on it. I probably
Aunt
wouldn't, I
Jemima.
wouldn't use Aunt or Uncle Ben.
Oh, Uncle Ben is he,
Hold on
now
a minute.
that woke is over, can we call him Uncle Ben again? Can we
Wait.
call her Aunt Jemima?
Hold on. Are Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben married?
I think they know of each other. I don't know if they're married. That's a great question.
What's happening with Betty Crocker? Is she involved in there somehow?
Maybe
as
it's
well?
a love triangle.
They're polyamorous.
Gross.
What about
How did this get brought into our purest discussion of pancakes? Polyamory. I want a pure breakfast of pancakes with syrup. With
That's
milk.
right.
I want to drink milk with it. I mean, these days I don't drink milk. I drink oat milk because I'm an Ashkenaz.
Oh, come on, soy milk. Anyway, look.
Any non-milk milk
I'll
will
tell
do.
you a secret with pancakes that I think is good.
You tell me.
Besides putting the maple syrup, which is I thought obvious, but whatever. But no, you know what you do. So when you're making them, you usually put them from the pan onto something to keep them, right?
With like a spatula type thing.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
I do is I take one, I check it on the thing, and then I'll take a slice of butter and stick it on.
Hell yeah. I was going to ask you about
Right?
that. Yeah.
So you stack them, and each one has a layer of butter.
Oh, that just sounds delightful. It's like a trifle. It's like a
Right, 'cause
pancake
the thing is,
trifle.
you don't know that you're going to get that when you begin to cut in them, but you find all this wonderful butter in
It's
there.
a surprise pancake cake.
Right.
Oh my God, that sounds
But
delicious.
you only should do that with expensive, good, like French style or decent butter. Not the stuff that's not tasteless. You
Yeah.
want really good butter.
Real butter and not, God forbid, margarine. That just shouldn't exist.
I don't even know what margarine is.
Isn't it not really food? But speaking of margarine, I remember when I used to see these commercials growing up, or in a sitcom, and you would see these massive meals in front of families that they never ate. The stack of pancakes would always have a perfect square of butter or margarine in the middle. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
That your butter sounds so much better than that.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of putting a bit of butter and then just maple syrup at the end. Obviously, with the kids or whatever, they can have the chocolate and all this stuff.
Right, right. So that would be ideal for you. And would you want anything on the side, or pancakes is a meal in itself?
No, I'll put some fried eggs and whatever. That's cool. I mean, yeah, I think fried eggs are kind of nice to put near the pancakes.
Right.
Obviously, as I said, in the States, people would be having sausages and bacon and a steak, and they'd probably have some potatoes. There'd be hash browns.
Sounds so heavy. Yeah. They wouldn't be having an Israeli salad with it.
Speaking of this, we'll do a segment again. We do a food segment every time, but just for a second, as we wrap up here.
Yeah.
Hash browns. I just discovered or heard or saw a recipe that kind of works. You take the potato and you basically make similar to a latke. You basically
You grate it.
grate the potato. Then what the guy told me, this chef, I think his name is something Andrew, Chef Gruel on
Gruel?
Yeah, I follow him. I'm a big fan.
Gruel means disgusting food they serve at
No,
orphanages.
that's his actual name. I think.
Okay.
So anyway, you take the shavings of the potato, you stick it in a bowl, and stick it in the microwave for several
Oh, a
minutes.
microwave.
Yeah, so that parboils it or whatever, and then you take it out. Oh wait, sorry. Before that, you've got to get all that water out. So you take a cheesecloth or whatever. You wring the water out.
Okay.
Anyway, chuck it in the bowl, put it in the microwave. It comes out, and then you take it, a little bit of salt and pepper, whatever, and then you form it into these hash brown type of things,
Oh,
and then fry it in something.
delicious.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
something because hash browns for me have always kind of bedeviled me, and I never been able to make them.
Yeah, and they do seem a little bit intriguing to me, I gotta say. One last thing, Seth, you mentioned lettuce to your detriment, because I need to ask you if you had a salad with 2 real vegetables that are not lettuce and 1 adjacent vegetable.
I didn't, but someone brought me Schachne or whatever for Purim, and they brought me a small salad, oddly enough.
I've never seen a mishloach mano with a salad. What were they trying to communicate? What was the deal with this mishloach mano?
I think they wanted me to eat healthy.
Okay, so you didn't. Who ate the salad, or did it just?
I think I just threw that away, to be honest. I'm not
Oh,
sure. But listen,
okay.
let's
So
think about
lettuce
this
is where it's at. Yeah.
for the next episode. Let's do
Yes.
something about something healthy. And we'll do something on tuna steaks. Well, you research it. We'll think about something.
We'll definitely talk. I love tuna steaks when it's red in the middle. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you very much for this episode of Conflict in Cuisine. It was great to see you again, and we'll look forward to this in a few weeks and an update on the conflicts we've been discussing.
And the conspiracies. Can't wait.
Exactly.
Okay. Toodaloo.